Oh, there we go. Um, Welcome, everyone. We are so happy you could be here today. We had our first launch of the weekend yesterday at the Casablanca Library in Riverside, California. And some of the Inlandia Journal contributors were there to present live, and they're now in the audience enjoying their colleagues' work today. Hello and welcome. My name is Janine Peroy Gamblin, and I'm Programs and Marketing Coordinator for Inlandia Institute, which is a regional literary and cultural arts nonprofit here in inland Southern California. Um, Today, we are proud to celebrate the launch of the Fall 2025 edition of Inlandia Journal and to wish it a very happy 15th birthday. This is the 15th year of publishing our online journal. We are delighted that we have a couple of publishing opportunities here at Inlandia, at least two. We've got a couple more. Um, Online with the Inlandia Journal, and also we have an anthology that we publish annually for members of our creative writing workshops. Before we go any further, it's our practice at Inlandia to acknowledge our responsibility to the original and current caretakers of this land, water, and air, the Cahuilla, Gabrielino Tongva, Luceño, and Serrano peoples, and all of their ancestors and descendants. We are grateful for the opportunity to live and work on these homelands. We have quite a program ahead of us, so let's get started. I'm here today with my friend and colleague, Erin Michaela Sweeney. She's managing editor of the online journal, and we welcome her right now, Inlandia Journal editor. Hi, Erin.
Hey, Janine. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here and to be with contributors who wanted to participate this morning. Well, it's morning here in sunny Southern California. And this issue, as you mentioned, marks 15 years. Um, and it's just blown me away to see how people still bring their hearts into all of the creative work that they do. Um, and when we're able to touch our readers and viewers with our writing and with our art, uh, that's what I really feel is the gold that we try to achieve, and which I highlight in my editor's letter this issue. So feel free when you have a chance to later on click into inlandiajournal.net, N-E-T. Uh, that's our homepage, and you'll see that same cover art of the tangled freeways with the contents button at the bottom. Click through, and you'll see the list of every single contributor. That's it for me right now.
Thank you, Erin. There it is. All right. A few housekeeping notes. We do ask the audience to stay muted with their videos off. That helps make it easier for us to manage the writers who will be sharing their work. Writers, as you know, please stay muted until it's your turn to read, but keep your videos on, or we won't be able to see you when it's your turn. Also, a reminder that the launch is being recorded. You'll be able to see it later on Facebook, possibly, but for sure on the Inlandia YouTube channel. Our executive director, Katie Porter, is off stage today doing tech for us, but she's going to be timing the readers. We do have a 5-minute rule where we ask people to keep their pieces to 5 minutes or under. It's hard to know when you're a writer reading your writing, you get lost in time and it's impossible to really tell unless you're looking at a clock. So Katie may step in. We never like to do it, but it's just to help keep the program on track. So that's it. Again, welcome. And with all of that, we're going to start the program. I'd like to welcome our first presenter, Juanita Mance, also known as Jem. Uh, Jem is a lawyer, a writer, performer, and podcaster. She has two books, a memoir titled Tales of an Inland Empire Girl, which won bronze at the Latino Books into Movies Awards, and a hybrid chapbook titled Portrait of a Public Defender, or How I Became a Punk Rock Lawyer, which won gold at the International Latino Book Awards. Welcome, Jem.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Janine, Katie, and of course, Erin. You made this issue so beautiful. I'll start. My ink is red, the bulbs are green by Winnie the Mance, inspired by bell hooks. We're at the Home Depot. My husband Adrian is looking at plants. We get into a tiff about nothing. I am cheery, he is grumpy, then vice versa. We bicker, although our love is deep and sustaining. I can be annoyingly light, he can be dark. Our fight started when I flipped him off in the car when he said I overextend myself with writing events, which I do. I stand in the Christmas aisle at the Home Depot looking at all the decorations, the Santa, the Rudolph, and I look at the twinkling colorful bulbs and all the Christmas music is blaring in my ears. As a kid, Christmas was hard. I don't think of candy canes, hot chocolate cookies, and stockings by the fire. I remember my mom and dad yelling and throwing plates and punching holes in the walls. During their fights, I would go up on the roof and hide and read a book. It's how I became an attentive reader. I tried to lose myself. I try and remember the good stuff too, but it doesn't always stick. Let me concentrate on the good. My dad's bright blue eyes when he hides a mechanical silver bird that chirps to a melody in the Christmas tree. My mom's young and beautiful in my memory. She's wearing a gaudy Christmas sweater, and me and my twin sister and my little sister Annie are in matching pajamas opening our presents. She gets me the dancing ballerina doll I coveted so. My dad's glazed, glistening ham is on the table. My dad made a ham every year until the day he died when he was 69 years old. It was almost 2 decades ago when he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer right before Christmas Eve. I spent that Christmas on the oncology floor, not realizing he would be gone within 3 weeks. You see, the bad stuff lingers. It lingers. Perhaps my pen is full of red ink. I tend to write the bloody stuff. My mom swinging a vacuum cord at us when we're little. As Bell Hooks said, I write to prove it happened, to bear witness. My little sister Annie says it wasn't that bad, but she used to hide under the bed, so if it was so good, what was she hiding from? I call Annie from the Home Depot with my husband, and she tells me men are annoying. Just put some stuff in his cart and make him buy it. I pull a Grinch figurine, a festive doormat, and you know what? It helps. Adrian doesn't complain. He picks up a Grinch figurine, but he buys it without complaint. I tell him, you look like him, or he looks like you. Why can't I hide anything? Why must I write my bloody ink? I must try to see the green. I must try to remember. I remember the good. The red still stains, though. It seeps onto the page here, and I start clicking on my phone, writing this to memorialize it all. Then I remember that Adrian cooks for me just like my dad did. We don't fight like my mom and dad did. We don't throw things, even though I used to decompress with beer like my dad did. I always feel lighter after writing this. So after I write this story, I walk out of the Home Depot and I feel peaceful. I pass by a blue and white tree and I notice and I think of my dad's blue eyes again. Adrian and I get in the car. He puts the Sirius radio station on Eartha Kitt, who purrs out Santa Baby. Humming along, I think of the red and green stockings I hang for us every year and the beautiful spread Adrian puts on the table for me. I realize, after writing this story, that my tree is multicolored, just like my memories. It's red, green, blue, and white. I vow to decorate the house today and bring in even more golden light. I vow to remember and write the beautiful things. I vow to watch my mom open her presents, thinking of my father, and commit her smiling wine face to memory. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Juanita. Our next reader is Alex Kerrigan, who is a Pushcart nominated editor, poet, and critic from Alexandria, Virginia. He is the author of Now Let's Get Brunch, a collection of RuPaul's Drag Race Twitter poetry, and May All Our Pain Be Champagne, a collection of Real Housewives Twitter poetry. Welcome, Alex.
Yes, thank you for having me. Today I will be reading the two poems that will be in Inlandia. The first was written after a painting in the Freer Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C. This is Pining for Rada. The museum gave me a magnifying glass to help me understand the extent of her pining. Rada's nestled against a tree as if it grew from her spine. She could be out milking the cows, but she put on her finest shroud and jewelry in order to remain in the shade for when Krishna arrives. A crack emerges in the magnifying glass, so I quickly pull it back as it breaks onto the floor. I start to worry Krishna is behind me, not wanting me to be a voyeur. But in a smirk I see caught in the shard, I realize it's Radha behind the breaking. She knows Krishna is coming, has known for centuries. She knows men like me pine for her, show devotion to her vigil, and hope to know what is going on in her mind as she waits. But she shuts them out, content with the solitude of looking to the right end of the frame and waiting for someone who will surely come someday. If she looks away, she can forget there's anyone else who can intrude. And my second piece is a duplex poem written after a line by my friend Robert Allen. This is Briar Rose. There is only one rule. You cannot change or leave. That temptation is not as strong as the briars. The briars slowly tighten around your neck, quench your dry mouth with blood and honeysuckle. You quench your thirst with honeysuckle. But remember how clean and cold the water from the river was. The river was always outside your window, a flowing mouth daring you to be swallowed by it. You're swallowed alive as the briars tighten around you. But then you remember you planted the first seed in the riverbed. The riverbed spat out thorns and coils, hiding the sight of gentle currents and rushing salmon from your eyes. Your eyes close as you remember you imposed on yourself this one rule. You cannot change or leave. Thank you very much.
Hmm. Thank you so much, Alex. We're so glad you could be here today. Our next reader is Deborah A. Navarez, who is a Chicana who was born and raised in East Los Angeles, a published writer and poet, a UCLA and Pacific Oaks College graduate, mother of 3 adult sons, and a breast cancer survivor. She resides near the San Gabriel Mission, which at times has informed and inspired her writing. Serves the community as a psychotherapist and is currently writing a family memoir. Welcome, Deborah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Today, I will read my essay, Mi Partera. As a psychotherapist in East Los Angeles, South Central Los Angeles, and California's Sierra foothills for the past decade, I've worked with many people, the often invisible, agricultural workers in apple orchards, ranch hands, office cleaners, caregivers, all working hard to make ends meet. Some are undocumented immigrants surviving the violence along their journey to El Norte and new to therapy. Others are Anglo-Americans struggling with intergenerational poverty and addiction. Sharing relatable and inspirational stories in their own language can be quite powerful. Books including Sandra Cisneros' The House on Mango Street, The Circuit, Stories from the Life of a Migrant Child by Francisco Jimenez, and Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning can open new ways of thinking. Combined with journaling or expressive writing, these stories can help people reduce stress, take better care of themselves, and even start to question the challenges they face in a society that often excludes them. Tools such as these encourage them to focus on what they can control, their own inner world, their attitude, their resilience. I encourage them to express themselves freely, to explore the stories that most resonate with them, and to gradually start writing about their own experiences. It's about reclaiming their voice that may have been stolen by shame or trauma. This process helps them gain greater clarity of their narrative, find their voice, discover inner strength, with the potential to lay a foundation for sharing their stories with the world. There is strong evidence that expressive writing can be a powerful tool in healing both physically and psychologically. Research by doctors James Pennebaker, Anne Krantz, Bessel van der Kolk, and others have shown how effective expressive arts can be. I also consider it a form of social justice, as people actively take control of their emotional well-being, their thoughts and experiences. As van der Kolk says, the goal is to remember, not to relive, to transcend their pain and shame, and build, or as I like to say, be reborn. It's about becoming whole, achieving wellness at every level, mind, body, and spirit. I tell my patients I'm a partera, a midwife, in our therapeutic journey together. They give birth to themselves. They discover their inner strength, often with the help of inspiring stories, like those by Cisneros. I know this firsthand. Discovering Cisneros' work was like a rebirth for me too. So that's part of my essay, Mi Partera. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deborah. And a reminder, you can read the rest of our essay online at inlandiajournal.net, N-E-T. We have to point that out because it's easy to forget it's different than the ORG one we have for Inlandia. Our next reader is Violet E. Cooper. Violet is a writer and translator from Connecticut. She recently completed a thesis on Renata Adler for her BA from Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri, and is currently translating a collection of French poetry. Welcome, Violet.
Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here. I'm going to be reading an excerpt of my story, Warbling. It was a specific melancholy, the melancholy of things coming to an end. It was a time of transience, of tepid drinks and tall glasses, of trying on old shoes again. It was a time of impatience, of wasted mornings and humid nights. May, a premature bumblebee, a bird seeking a lonelier tree. I spent the initial days of spring going in and out of buildings, tracing figure eights, cartwheeling all over town. My re-entrance to polite society was littered with warnings. Portents appeared to me as I acclimated to my more than familiar surroundings. I stepped on broken eggs in the grocery store, walked over broken glass on the street. In a toy store, I peered into the peephole of a child's kaleidoscope, saw my reflection splintered in the chiasmus of a magic trick. Almond eyes and twitching mouth, washed red and green and gold in quiet danger. One morning, a sparrow flew into my window. It lay on the ground, paralyzed, blinking up at me. I didn't have the heart to kill it properly. 2 days afterward, a songbird flew into the same window. This time it died instantly. Later, I found out that it was called a blue-winged warbler. Apparently, its song sounded like a tired sigh, a spz, like that of an insect. The warbler was striking, a cubist color block of blue and yellow. It landed so that its feet pointed straight up to the sky. Late spring was iterative in its beauty. It was the spring of years past, of devotion and innocence and tracing tiny circles on a loved one's hand. Smack dab in the middle of the month, and the trees were green, 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 green. Clover green, rain on the windshield dripping down green, yellow mailbox in front of a clapboard house green. My return prompted memories to revise themselves. I remembered a thin white scar on a dog-bitten left hand, an enviable silver silence. I remembered crisscrossed legs in a field of clovers, the tickling premonition that destruction was near. These memories were mercurial, syrupy, and slow. I watched them take their time. They dripped in and out of my consciousness, coagulated in pools now shriveled by distance. They lingered, injured and waiting for me to notice them. But they were false memories, vestiges of my own dissatisfaction, feigning timidity and writhing helplessly like a small animal. If I could have crushed these memories between my palms, I would have. In my absence, I had expected that there would be great and seismic changes to our pastoral way of life, but it seemed as though nothing had changed. Rather, they had only shifted slightly forward. At dinner, we toasted to new stages of life. We toasted to early retirement, to graduation from adolescence, to the joy of being broke in young adulthood. We toasted to the architect who built this house for his family, who had a knack for that kind of thing, for creating something beautiful and then deserting it. That's the big lie, I said. And I thought I was the clever one, for announcing it, for vocalizing it in front of everyone else. But the truth was that I didn't really want a big lie, a conspiracy magnetic enough to yield myself to it. I was not, and never had been, a true believer. No, I wanted a series of little lies, medium lies, mundane and bite-size, and just nefarious enough to get caught between your teeth. Thank you
Hmm.
so much.
Thank you so much, Violet. Our next reader is Emily Locke. Muleskinner Journal recently published his work. He's the author of The Nestucca Retreat. He lived abroad for several years and also sailed a small boat, circumnavigating the globe, before settling down on the island of St. John, U.S. Virgin Islands. He currently performs as a singer-songwriter of the Americana genre. Welcome. We're glad to have you, Lee.
Thank you. Very happy to be here. I'm going to read a portion of my short story, 7 Years. But first, I just wanted to talk about the inspiration for the title. Um, I've had momentous changes in my own life every 7 years, almost like clockwork. Some planned, some not. Some changes were ordinary, though some extraordinary, usually involving a physical move, but always a change in my direction of my life. Thus, 7 years. Routine is not as smooth and unerring as advertised. Rough borders exist, like a rocky shoulder on a country road. I move through each day with unconscious purpose. At the end, I am usually satisfied and muster a smile. This day, however, veers to the raggedy ribbon along the edge. Before sunset, I walk easily along Union Street, my habit on a mid-week evening, leaving my neighborhood to enter Pacific Heights with the destination of a favorite Chinese eatery. My expectation is to sit at the small bar for a drink and dinner, observing the normal set of familiar faces along with an acquaintance or two. No disappointment on that account. And anonymous faces fill out the scene. Also a typical experience. The waitstaff busily change the red tablecloths from lunch to white for dinner, making the black lacquer furniture less exotic. Not that it mattered to me, since I preferred the terrazzo bar and chrome and vinyl bar stools. But at a table for two by the front window, I see her. Polly, my dearest pollywog. Certainty arrives slowly. Her hair is shorter and blonder, her cheeks fuller. Then I see her eyes lift, the pale blue irises brighten in the butter-colored lighting of the restaurant. She sees my own widened face. I want to be happy, but I know my expression is filled with turbidity, and hers mirrors mine. My gut burns as if I slugged down a large shot of whiskey, which I now plan to order. My day has veered completely off the road. I feel that acute emptiness in my stomach instantly created by fear, like seeing a car rocketing at you at an intersection and you know you can't stop it. Then, as quickly, a memory of my first meeting, Polly, folds into the scene ages ago at a sixth grade dance, and my breath is sucked from me. I gulp, then involuntarily yawn. If I could not feel more stupid. Finally, I calm myself. She is with someone, a man, not her husband. These are thoughts that come later, perhaps only seconds later, but enough delayed that my reaction is replete with openness, deference, with a dash of unwanted nervousness. Were they just holding hands? I think so. Thank you.
Hmm. Thank you, Lee. Our next reader is Julia Phillip, who has been nominated for a Pushcart Prize and has been published in Ponder, Review, and elsewhere. Her current project is a memoir about her encounters with patriarchy, corruption, and political instability as a Peace Corps volunteer in rural Cameroon, and a portrait of the resilient Cameroonian women whose lives touched hers. Welcome, Julia.
Thank you so much, Janine. This is an excerpt from the book that I'm writing. It is called Crossing No Man's Land. Stepping onto the airfield in Bujumbura, Burundi, my first impression was of eye-stinging sunshine and lung-scorching heat. Hurry, folks, said Doug, our guide from the Peace Corps Training Center in Congo, the present-day Democratic Republic of Congo. In his early 40s, he had brown curly hair, intelligent eyes, and a sweat-stained khaki shirt. We've got 5 border crossings ahead of us and no man's land. If we don't make it to the center by dark, we're going to have to sleep on the road. That got our attention. My group, 13 women and 4 men, bound for training as community development volunteers in rural Cameroon, had just traveled 36 hours from JFK. What's no man's land? I asked. It's 10 miles of sand, rock, and hills, Doug said. No country's claimed it because they don't want to be responsible for building a road. My mouth dropped open. Children in threadbare clothes, their bellies protruding, gathered around to wave and look at us. We waved back. Behind them, scores of people, women carrying large bundles on their heads, and men hauling firewood and jerry cans milled about on the street. I blinked my eyes constantly, trying to make sense of the pandemonium. It reminded me of Penn Station in New York around the holidays. After college, I worked in New York City for a year, promoting college-level courses on issues like hunger and human rights in less developed countries. I was tired of talking about the issues and wanted to do something, anything, to help. You should join the Peace Corps, a colleague said. When I was accepted, I couldn't wait to tell my grandmother. Go to Africa and learn the wisdom of the Africans, she said, and keep a journal. You may want to write a book one day. I took my grandmother's advice, and here I was, headed to Bukavu, Congo, in an old yellow school bus with crooked doors, patches of rust, my apologies, and a few cracked windows. The seats were covered with sweaty plastic and sagged. Even with the windows open, it was hot, cramped, and smelled like dirty socks. Doug walked up the aisle, collected our passports, and safeguarded them in a messenger bag he wore diagonally across his chest. I'll go ahead of you to the border crossings to see if I can speed up the immigration process, he said. This is DDA, your driver. A man in his 50s with bulging eyes and a crinkled forehead turned around and gave us a solemn nod. Doug handed each of us a tepid bottle of Coke from a cooler, so appreciated, and a package of peanut butter crackers. Do you have anything else to drink? Another trainee asked. Afraid not, he said. This is it until we get to the training center. We looked at each other, wondering if we had heard correctly. He nodded. I'll see you at the first border crossing. We watched through the windows as he strapped on his helmet, revved the motorcycle engine, and disappeared down the crumbling asphalt road into the throngs of people. The terrain leaving Bujumbura was parched, covered in dun-colored dust and strewn with rocks, dry vegetation, and tree stumps. A single cloud hovered in the distance, silhouetted against a low mountain range. The mood in the bus was contemplative as we passed small mud houses topped with conical thatched roofs. Tall, bony farmers dressed in gray rags stared at us. They had large foreheads, long noses, thin lips, hollow eyes. One balding man stood up to watch us pass and seemed exhausted by the effort. He was naked except for a pair of threadbare shorts that exposed his shriveled penis. Looking at him, we were stunned into silence. Soon the mud houses disappeared. As we bumped along the road, the bus lurched from side to side to avoid hitting rocks and ditches. When a ditch was unavoidable, we got thrown. The first time this happened, one trainee hit his head on the ceiling, and I bit my tongue and tasted blood. After that, we clutched whatever we could find to avoid going airborne. Thank you so much, and back to you, Janine.
Thank you so much, Julia. Our next reader is Juan Sebastian, known as Zeb Restrepo, and they are an artist. So we're going to take a little pause here with our readings of published writing and look at some of Zeb's art. Zeb is a Colombian American artist whose work explores memory, domesticity, and emotional life through drawing and painting. Born in Barranquilla, is that right? Colombia, and raised in Miami, Florida, Zeb holds a BFA from Pratt Institute and an MFA from Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. Their work has been exhibited across the U.S., including solo shows in Florida and Miami. Zeb also teaches and facilitates community arts programs in South Florida. Welcome, Zeb.
Hi, thank you. First of all, I want to thank Katie, Erin, Janine, and everyone else working in Inlandia to make this possible. Great. Hello, everyone. My name is Juan Sebastian Zeb Restrepo, and I'll be sharing my painting titled Multitasking. This piece was created in 2023 using acrylic on canvas, and it measures 60 by 36 inches. I'll talk a bit about what inspired it, the composition, and what it says about our daily lives. Next slide, please. Here's the full painting. The scene shows a messy, colorful bedroom where a cat lounges on the bed, surrounded by everyday objects: clothes, shoes, a phone, a laptop, a book. There's another cat walking along the headboard. The bright orange and blue palette gives the piece a slightly playful yet slightly chaotic energy. The painting explores the feeling of juggling too many things at once, a reflection of modern life and digital overload. Next slide, please. I was inspired by the everyday messes that pile up when life gets busy. The title multitasking doesn't just refer to doing many things at once, but also to how our attention gets scattered between work, screens, chores, and even our thoughts. The cats act as both part of the chaos and witnesses to it. They move through our human clutter with calm detachment, as if to remind us to slow down. Next slide, please. Color plays a big role here. I used contrasting colors, warm orange and cool blue, to create energy and tension. The bed sits at the center like a small island of daily life. The composition is intentionally flattened, almost childlike, to emphasize pattern and rhythm instead of realism. It's meant to feel busy but balanced, like an organized mess. Next slide, please. Each object on the bed tells a story. The open laptop and phone represent how technology invades personal space. The scattered clothes and shoes hint at routine exhaustion. And then there are the cats, one resting, one walking. They suggest different ways of existing in the same space: calm acceptance versus constant movement. Together, they mirror how we oscillate between peace and busyness. Next slide, please. Multitasking also has a bit of humor in it. The chaos is exaggerated but relatable. Most of us have seen this kind of scene in our lives. It's about judgment, but about it's not about judgment, but about recognition. This is what our inner and outer worlds can look like when everything demands our attention. The painting asks, how do we find stillness in the middle of all this motion? The last slide, please. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. I hope multitasking resonates with you in some way. whether as a reminder to pause or simply as a glimpse into the beautiful chaos of everyday life. I'd be happy to answer any questions or hear your interpretations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zeb. Are there any questions? I think it may take people a moment to think, but if you do, put it in the chat and we'll get back to it. Okay. Our next reader is Ken Bean. Ken's writing is published or forthcoming in journals internationally, including Lit Magazine, The Primer, Slab, and New Croton Review, among many others. His work is also anthologized in Even in Heaven, They Don't Sing All the Time, Remembering Lawrence Ferlinghetti, and Remembering Gerald Stern. He is from Michigan. Welcome, Ken.
Good day, everyone. Here's some very brief context to the poem I'll be reading. In 1973, as a college student, I hitchhiked to the West Coast from Detroit and landed in, of all places, Riverside, California. It was my first time seeing the Pacific. As I gazed across, feeling kind of strong, powerful, self-realized in the type of way that a young person sees the world as something bigger and thinks they have it all figured out. And maybe I did, for I imagined my father stationed in the South Pacific during World War II, looking back toward California, back toward me. Now, obviously, it was a strange anachronism, an impossible aspect of time, but it became this poem many years later. The Coastal. The outer locker, the last one at the end of the corridors of America. My feet are in the sand. I pick up a stick and spell out my name and the date. I was here in 73. Unwashable words slammed closed behind a metal door. My father was there. I point to the horizon toward the South Pacific. He is ducked below the curvature of wars, sleeping in huts on beds made of tire tubes, a weave of slats across an emptied ammo crate, taut and bouncy, catapulting messages, the signal corpsmen flagging down the world, tuning love letters to dot dash embryos in waves that liberated me. A wandering roadside soul, I get in. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ken. Uh, our next presenter is also an artist, Diana Willand. Based in Boston, Diana is a self-taught acrylic painter who specializes in abstract portraiture and graphic illustration. She's inspired by the natural world, mythology, art history, and her love for antique things. Her sustainable art is available through her company, Black Cat Sustainable Art Company. Welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm going to talk a little bit about my works that were selected for Inlandia. I can pull up the page. Awesome. So as you can see here, most of my artwork is portraits. My goal with portraits is to try to encapsulate the aura of a person. And I always want to evoke joy in the viewer. So all of my artwork is very bright and colorful and whimsical in a way. The first work on the top left is called Olive Grove or Capri Girl. I'm very inspired by art history. So this work is after a John Singer Sargent painting. That is the favorite painting of one of my good friends. So I kind of wanted to create my own version for them. The two works on the upper, uh, middle, and right are more examples of my portrait paintings. The middle is called Tong with Magnolia and Roses. And this work is a painting of another friend of mine. And again, I wanted to encapsulate how this person made me feel and really incite joy. And the other work is a self-portrait with poppies, which is my favorite flower. So I wanted to incorporate that. And I also work hard to create a lot of my art using sustainable materials. So much of the art that I create is used with wood or glass. And in this case, those last two works, that work, any name here, is painted on a porcelain plate. And it's inspired by traditional tattoo art um, and the history of tattoo art. And the last work is a checkers set that was painted on an antique checkerboard. And all of the pieces were hand molded out of clay and painted with acrylic paint. And this one in particular, I think, really encapsulates my love of whimsical art. And I think it's very joyful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diana. Thanks for sharing your art with us. Our next presenter is Taylor Harrison. Taylor is an American writer. Her work has been featured or is forthcoming in a variety of literary magazines, including Yellow Arrow Journal, Cosmic Daffodil Journal, P.O. Box Outer Space, Mulberry Literary, and more. She was a participant in the summer 2025 Yale Writers Workshop. Welcome, Taylor.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here. And I'm going to read an excerpt from my piece, Desert Deserted. This is a creative nonfiction essay. As we made our way toward Highway 62 in 2018, I gazed into the rearview mirror as the picturesque, predictable beauty of Palm Springs became obscured by the rugged desert landscape, the surroundings untouched as they had been for millennia. Summer was coming. We knew it because the tourists had seemingly disappeared overnight. I unrolled the window of Elle's beat-up butter-colored Mini Cooper since the air conditioning was on the brink of failing, each draft of wind more tightly tangling the obsidian tendrils that hung to my waist. I closed my eyes and reclined the passenger seat, feeling as though I too could be dignified and imposing like the wind turbines that dotted the valley, narrowly avoiding succumbing to the anxiety I felt being away with someone I had only met a handful of times. The road continued to unfurl before us, two strangers from Los Angeles who thought that a great way to get to know one another would be to take a trip to various desolate destinations over the course of several days. When we arrived in Joshua Tree that sunny afternoon, I promptly discovered why you cannot spell the word deserted without desert, how the landscape is seemingly uninhabited despite its immensity. For once, I felt free in solitude. Elle had long aspired to own property, I learned that week, in one of the other desert cities, as was emblazoned on the highway sign. Although that exit didn't lead to Joshua Tree, the sign itself seemed symbolic. Palm Springs loomed large in the minds of those who didn't regularly visit the broader region and was often the landmark I heard others refer to when explaining the geographic location of Joshua Tree. Other desert cities hinted that everything east of Palm Springs belonged on the fringes, lost secrets to be unveiled to those who craved something slightly different from manicured lawns and mid-century modern homes, towns that were for the explorers, the dreamers, the survivors. Not naming the locales insinuated that it was up to us to decide, captains of our own fate in the heat of a borderline inhospitable climate. Elle pulled up a real estate listing while we had sandwiches at Frontier Cafe in Yucca Valley and promptly dialed the agent. I'm sorry this is so last minute, he started, but would you happen to be free to show one of your listings? The realtor happily obliged, and before we knew it, we were off to view a home nestled in the foothills of Joshua Tree. It was called off the grid living, Elle had said, and I had never heard such a thing, having lived in neatly defined, master planned suburbs for most of my life. We drove down the dirt path, searching and searching for the street sign that would lead us to the house. The sky stretched before us, cloudless and cerulean. On the verge of giving up, Elle called the realtor and said he actually wanted something that wasn't so challenging to find. The realtor, who was running late, redirected us to a different home. This one, he said, was in 29 Palms. Where is 29 Palms? I asked Elle. Is it too far? Elle pulled up his Google Maps app and zoomed in. Potentially, he said, but it's worth checking out. We returned to Highway 62, the stretches of land speckled with lone structures, unable to distinguish temporary vacancy from years of abandonment. We passed the plethora of fast food joints, the old Stater Brothers supermarket, and the numerous small businesses that were a time capsule of a simpler era, one that didn't involve two lonely individuals meeting on a dating app in hopes that true love was only one more swipe, one more dinner date away. I looked at Elle in the driver's seat, admiring his unwavering penchant for adventure. He had traveled the world in his late teens, 20s, and early 30s, ending up in Los Angeles after several years in Martha's Vineyard. He was originally from a small town that bordered England and Wales near Liverpool. Upon meeting him, I was astonished that out of everywhere he could have lived, he chose his little bungalow in East Hollywood, whereas I had been itching to leave the state and maybe even the country in my early 20s naivety. In my brief assessment of him, he was impulsive, but once he made a decision, he stuck by it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Taylor. Our next reader is Lilibet Garcia Hansen. Lilibet is a Southern California essayist and poet. She holds a degree with distinction in literary journalism from the University of California, Irvine, and is currently a features writer and editor at the Getty Center, where she applies her journalistic eye to the intersection of art and science. Welcome, Lilibet.
Thank you,
Lilibeth.
Janine.
I
Oh, no, it's okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. This is my second ever published fiction piece. The first one was published a couple weeks ago. So thank you, Inlandia, for being part of my entry into literary fiction. And I'll get started. I'm reading the second half of the story in the issue, which is titled Here, Here, Come Right Here. And here it goes. A couple weeks ago, I returned to this place for just a day and drove through a neighborhood ridden with prayer, the kind of neighborhood that reeks of prayer, of the strong spray of disinfectant, of the harsh cleaning, elbow grease, and bleach that happens when a stain cannot be removed easily. I drove past a Pentecostal church named Monte de Salvacion and saw a familiar face. She looked like a girl I knew in high school who followed us bad, high, class-ditching, party-going, drunk-driving older kids like a lost puppy, who sometimes gifted us a glimmer of self-awareness. We were streetwise children, 17-year-olds who thought we were grown because we smoked black market weed and drank stolen liquor, because we were clever enough to skirt around the adults in our lives, just enough to get in trouble without getting caught. She wanted to be like us, and I always wondered where she came from, how she folded into our group, being 3 years younger. No one else seemed to care or notice. She stood behind the arcade of the Spanish Colonial Revival building, with its blinding white stucco walls and red tile roof, peering out onto the street. At the light, I noticed her dried out blonde hair, reddened cheeks, and an expression of discomfort. Dressed in a pink tank top bunched awkwardly over her belly, sagging gray sweatpants, flip-flops, and a backpack, she held her shoulders tight and furrowed her brow. As she looked into the distance, left and then right, it seemed she was waiting for someone to come by. I wondered, memory flickering, if it was really her, Molly, a name that stood out to me in a sea of Annas and Marias. My heart began to race because it was her. There was no question. Molly was still lost. I thought back to how she looked when I knew her, the last version I had of her in my mind. Had it been 10 years already? It was a Friday night, and we were in another long, dusty backyard with random patches of grass and oak trees that catch pitch black shadows. Spilled orange-flavored wine caked the earth beneath us and made the bottoms of our shoes sticky. Molly and I were ensconced in a haze of body odor, beer breath, and blunt smoke. Even in this fog, her face looked bright like the moon. Pale yellow concealer layered on thick, but not thick enough to hide her permanently blushing cheeks. Her head too big for her body, like a baby's. Her fingers holding a cigarette next to her thin mouth. Her hair was dyed black then. Her hair was dyed black then, and it faded into red and then blonde at the roots. Look what I found! She screamed over Kendrick's ADHD and pulled out a large bottle of cough syrup. There isn't much left, but it's enough. I stole it from my dad's room. I don't think he'll notice. He doesn't even know I'm here. She giggled in a way that seemed affected. We exchanged long drinks of the amber liquid like it was juice, and time soon began to stretch and warm. ADHD slowed, and a melody drew out. Soft, pitiful, romantic, angelic. Molly said something, but I couldn't hear her. I could only see their desperate eyes, wide and ice blue. She looked directly into me. Finally, I made out her words. I wrote a poem. What? I yelled over the music and crowd, although I did hear her that time. I was failing English, and Mrs. Figueroa said if I wrote a poem, she would let me pass. She would give me a D instead of an F. Didn't you say you liked to write? Instantly, I became orange hot embarrassed. I didn't remember sharing anything like that, let alone that I loved to write, that I wrote frequently and sober, and I thought I must have said something while blacked out. Yeah, I like to write sometimes, stupid thoughts when I'm stoned. Oh, she gave a brief look of confusion. My poem is pretty dumb. But she liked it. She said, You can write. Molly made air quotes around those words, and that I should write more. I could tell she wasn't sure what that meant, except that she was proud Mrs. Figueroa would let her pass, and she was curious why I liked to write. Why I liked to write. This mystifying practice she was only beginning to understand. Something in her, perhaps that same voice that wrote that poem, nudged at her to find out. Who knew? She said, giggling again as she reached into her back pocket. Believe it or not, it's about. I can't remember what she said now, but I'm searching my mind for a clue when I hear the call of the oriole.
Thank you so much, Lilybeth. We are down to our last two readers. Molly Seal will be next, and then August Gladstone will bring it home for us. Molly's work has been published in Hippocampus Magazine, Hotel America, New Millennium Writings, The Right Launch, Months to Years, and elsewhere. She is a Pushcart Prize nominee, a Fulbright Scholar to the former Soviet Union, and an MFA recipient in theater from the University of Texas at Austin. She resides in Makanda, Illinois, and with her husband and two gentle gray cats. Welcome. We're happy to have you, Molly.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for making this possible, all of you. So I'm going to read one of two poems that Inlandia is publishing. This is entitled On the Front Porch. Saturday morning, scratchy throat, surprising aches, stinging shivers, slight fever, a husband, 3 children, 3 cats, an 1898 Sears kit house to dust and scrub and tidy. But I can't. The air, mild, but brisk, sharp. He makes hot honeyed tea. I cradle the cup in one hand, push open the screen door with the other, step onto the front porch. 2 chairs, porch swing, chase lounge, summon me to sit. I slump into one of the chairs, sip the tea, study the turn of the remaining leaves, cranberry, burnt orange, golden swirls, trees stripped to skeletons. He brings me a cushion, a blanket, a collection of short stories, more tea. I cannot rise. I shouldn't. I mustn't. Children converge, circle, scatter cup after cup after cup of tea. He serves me dripping, sumptuous, cheesy toast on a flowered tray. I move to the Chase Lounge, slumber, the gentle sun still up, softening the chill. A friend drops by. You remind me of a TB patient in Thomas Mann's The Magic Mountain, she muses. Cats curl at my feet. Henry, Sonia, Cordelia. Children return, caress my hands, touch my cheek. Are you all right, Mama? Asks the middle. Will you survive? Questions the oldest. The little one coils at my side, kitten-like, silent. When the light dims and the chill grows stiff, he pours whiskey in the tea. My book of tales ends. The day is finished. I rise, walk within, revived. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly. Our final reader for today is August Gladstone. August is a writer, poet, and troubadour. An award-winning poet, he's been published by The Winged Moon, Vine Leaves Press, and more. As a lyricist, he's written for members of Supertramp, Crowded House, and Ringo's All-Star Band. August's debut EP, Commodore, was released in July 2025. He was a 2025 Woodstock Birdcliff Guild Summer Artist in Residence. Welcome, August.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful to be here sharing these beautiful words and images with you all. It's been an honor to be included. I have a short poem to read for you. I'm thankful that they decided to publish it here at Inlandia. And this is a poem that I wrote while I was stuck in traffic, as most good poems come from. And this is called Heathen's Nile. LA brake lights, river of blood. Where runs this heathen's Nile? Will it end in cold, high desert with its hungry silence? Do the veins of sanguine travelers stretch north to good old Frisco, hunched in the trash-bleached streets of techno-apocalyptic literary yesteryear? Does the manifest land still throb for man? May we tramp through Steinbeck's grapes and meditate on bald peaks to the screaming Yosemite eagle? Will all the gold of Hollywood still melt in the shape of dreams? Can we still craft perfect masks? Lord, where did that spirit go? Thank you.
Thank you, August. What a way to end our launch today. Thank you all. It's just an amazing treat to get to know you through your writing, see you better, and appreciate your wonderful art form in art, visual art, and also in language. I didn't notice any questions in the chat. If there are, please draw my attention to them. I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up for us today. Erin, if you want to say any more, let me know. I want to let everyone present here, audience and presenters, how much we appreciate you, and we do hope to hear from you again next season. Also, some of you may be aware, and some of you may just be learning this. Inlandia Institute offers a variety of creative writing classes, most of which are online. So wherever you are, you can take them. Just check out inlandiainstitute.org for more information about that. I'm going to get a quick screenshot. Everybody look pretty. Hold on. And, oh, it's Zoom wants me to do something. All right, I'm just going to do it. Hold on. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing yourselves with us today, and we really appreciate you. Take good care. Bye-bye. See you next time.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Love you,
You.
Katie.
Oh, love you guys too. This was great.